The state opposition has slammed yesterday's budget, blaming Labor mismanagement for the current economic woes. I spoke to the Shadow Treasurer, Peter Gutwein, a short time ago. Peter Gutwein, thanks for joining us. Is it hard for the Liberals to oppose this budget? I mean, your leader has said it displays fiscal restraint, and your traditional allies, the business community, have been largely supportive.
Well, it's all about priorities, Airlie. What we want to see is this budget ensure that it provides for frontline services in health, police and education. We don't agree with what the government's done in that what they've said to the public sector is that every single job is on notice. We believe that it's about setting priorities and it's about setting a vision, and unfortunately this budget has failed on both.
In May, your party, you said that you would not be supporting any forced redundancies. Do you stand by that?
Oh, look, absolutely. We have said that we won't sack public servants. We want to see teachers, police and nurses do the job that they're employed to do, not live under a cloud of fear as they currently are at the moment.
But do you believe that the public sector is bloated? I mean, the public sector has grown significantly in Tasmania in recent years without a corresponding increase in productivity. Wages have grown almost 2% above the private sector.
Well, look, obviously one of the things that Will Hodgman has said, and I have said as well, is that we want to see a smaller and more efficient public sector. We just don't agree with the way that the government's going about it. To set a budget to sack what will be up to 1,000 people over the next 12 months to actually achieve its targets is hardly achievable in our view. To also put fear throughout all regional communities in respect of the school closures is also very concerning as well. What we've got is a government here that brought down a budget yesterday that certainly does improve the bottom line, and we agree with improving the bottom line. But what it didn't do was outline a vision for Tasmania, and certainly it didn't meet the test that we set for it last week, and that was to call for the government to have a jobs plan in it, an economic development plan in it, and importantly a plan to put downward pressure on cost of living.
Well, how would you rein in the public purse?
Well, what we've said is that we want to adopt what we call strategic position management. Now, the public sector has around 25,000 people in it. In any given year, around 5% of those people leave. Now, that's around 1,250 people leave in a year. What we want to do is make certain that when people leave, that we only put people back on into those jobs that are necessary, and frontline services are obviously necessary, but importantly we want to ensure that across the public sector it's managed appropriately so that we end up with the right people doing the right job. Now, that hasn't been happening, and in fact we know from some of the comments that have been made in recent months that across the public sector there haven't even been job performance reviews done on an annual basis, which would be normal within the private sector.
Do you think that departments that agency heads have to stick to budgets? They have been overspending in recent years.
Ultimately, ministers are responsible for their departments. The Treasurer is responsible for those ministers ensuring that they do their job. And what we've seen in the last 2 years is a complete failure of management at a senior government level, not a senior public service level.
You're opposing the closure of schools, but obviously the unit cost of providing services in Tasmania is higher, contributed to by smaller school communities, empty classroom, you've still got all the overheads, maintaining buildings, power and so on and so forth. And some schools have as few as 31 students in them. Is that viable for an adequate education? Aren't you better off travelling a bit 20, 40 minutes longer? We
don't believe that there should be any forced closures of schools. We believe that the interests of the child are paramount, and importantly we believe that the community that school's in should have a say in the future of that school.
Moving to the electricity retailer Aurora, you advocate full contestability for power in Tasmania. If the government keeps hold of Aurora and opens up to full contestability, there's a likelihood it will lose customers. You've said customers are going to want to go elsewhere. Do you think that Aurora should then be put on the market now while it has a captive market?
We've got a situation where that company couldn't provide a decent return, and now all of a sudden it can, and the government needs to explain that. Look, our view in regards to contestability has always been that we want to see downward pressure on electricity prices. We believe that competition would put downward pressure on electricity prices, and we think that that's been proven through the other tranches that have been released in Tasmania to date. So again, what we want to see are Tasmanian consumers benefit, and we want to see Tasmanian consumers receiving the benefits of competition. Now, in respect of your question regarding whether or not Aurora should or should not be sold, one of the things that we have said consistently is that we don't believe that an income-producing asset should be sold.
Peter Gutwein, we're out of time. Thank you.
Airlie, thank you very much.